Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, April 29th, 2015 to order. Can I have a roll call, please? Dr. Pats.
Mrs. Witkowski.
Here.
Mrs. Klein.
Here.
Mr. Nielsen.
Here.
Mrs. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Alexandrovich.
Here.
And Mrs. Larson.
Here. Thank you. And has the meeting been properly posted, Dr. Pats?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is the oath of office. That will be for Mr. Lewis and myself, so if we'd like to go to the front, and Mr. Milzer will...
Supposed to have a robe on.
A powdered wig.
There you go.
Sure. All of it. Raise our right hands. Having been elected to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God. I do. Having been elected to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God.
Okay, item 4 is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Item 5 is community comment. Seeing there is no one present for community comment, we'll move on to item 6, the election of the 2015-2016 board officers. Before we proceed, I'd just like to get consensus from the board that if there's only one nomination for an office, do you want to just have a voice vote or secret ballot? Is a voice vote okay?
Yes.
Okay, and then otherwise, if there's more than one nomination, we will have a secret ballot. And no seconds are needed. So 6A is for the office of president. Do I hear any nominations for the office of president?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Melissa Klein for board president. I feel that she's level-headed and well-spoken and comes to the board meetings with an open mind. And I think she would present a good face for the board to our community and do well representing our students and staff.
Thank you. We have a nomination for Melissa Klein. Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Janet Evans for president.
Okay. Nomination for Janet Evans. Are there any other nominations?
I'd actually like to nominate Tim Nielsen as president. I think your business experience would be a fantastic addition.
Okay, we also have a nomination for Mr. Nielsen. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we have a nomination for Melissa Klein, Janet Evans, and Tim Nielsen. So if you'd like to mark your ballot, and then Ms. Day will collect the ballots.
One for Janet Evans. 2 for Janet Evans. 1 for Melissa Klein. 2 for Melissa Klein. 3 for Janet Evans. 1 for Tim Nielsen, and 4 for Janet Evans.
Thank you.
For Janet Evans.
Okay. Janet Evans is president, and I will proceed for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. The next nomination is for vice president. Do I hear any nominations for vice president?
Nominate Tim Nielsen.
Okay, we have a nomination for Tim Nielsen. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, the nominations are closed. All those in favor of Mr. Nielsen for vice president, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Okay, the vote is 6-1, Mr. Nielsen. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The next nomination is for treasurer. Do I hear any nominations for treasurer?
I'd like to nominate Alan Alexandrovich for treasurer.
Okay, we have a nomination for Alan Alexandrovich. Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Linda Witkowski.
Okay, we have a nomination for Alan Alexandrovich, Linda Witkowski. Any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. We have Alan Alexandrovich and Linda Witkowski. Please fill out your ballots.
One for Linda Witkowski, 2 for Linda Witkowski, 1 for Alan Alexandrovich, 2 for Alan Alexandrovich, 3 for Alan Alexandrovich, 3 for Linda Witkowski, and 4 for Alan Alexandrovich. 4 to 3.
Congratulations, Mr. Alexandrovich. And the next nomination is for clerk. Do we have any nominations for board clerk? I'd like to nominate Linda Witkowski. Are there any other nominations?
Nominate Melissa Klein.
Okay, we have Linda Witkowski, Melissa Klein. Any other nominations? Okay, nominations are closed. Please fill out your ballots.
One for Linda Witkowski, 1 for Melissa Klein, 2 for Melissa Klein, 2 for Linda Witkowski, 3 for Melissa Klein, 3 for Linda Witkowski, and 4 for Melissa Klein.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to pass the sheet to Ms. Klein? Just in case you need a sheet. We're taking roll calls.
Okay.
Okay. And the next item on the agenda then is the reorganization approval items. We have 7A, the designation of the 2015-16 district depositories. And Mr. Milzer.
For 15-16, we have BMO Harris Bank and JP Morgan Chase that we're using for banking services.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the recommended designated district depositories for the 2015-16 school year?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lewis, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Larson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Next item is the designation of the 2015-16 district newspaper of record. Dr. Katz?
We would recommend the Now newspapers, which is a subsidiary of the Journal Publishing Company. As you recall, you have to have a minimum circulation amount, and they meet those requirements. Really, we don't have any other area newspapers that can meet those requirements, along with having an easy place to do our notices. The Journal is really expensive, so it'd be our recommendation that the Now newspapers once again be considered the official newspaper of the district.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the 2015-16 recommendation of the Now newspaper? For the, okay,
Sorry.
that's all right. We have a motion by Mr. Nielsen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Approval of the 2015-16 school board calendar. Dr. Pats?
Megan has sent this out and would ask for your approval. We tried to consider all the dates that we had to change this year. Like always, it should be a working document. There are some things that come up during the course of the year, but at least this would be our starting point, and it is comparable to the existing calendar with the existing changes. We took a look at the middle school graduation date and some of the other things that we have in there, so it should be relatively accurate.
Do I hear a motion to approve the 2015-16 school board calendar?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Klein. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Larson. Any discussion?
Just curious as to the propensity of how often we shift dates.
Not many.
Okay.
Not many at all. It would be a unique circumstance when we do that. So,
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. And then item 7D is the appointment of a board delegate for the CISA 1 Board of Control Annual Convention. For those not aware of what that is, or are there any questions about what that is, first of all?
Go ahead and
Okay.
explain.
Okay. Well, the delegates for CISA, I'm going to see when they meet here. It said right in the packet here when they meet. It was May 19th, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, it says it on the
Yeah.
agenda, in
Okay.
Pewaukee, yep.
So the delegates are one school board from each district, and they meet to vote on who will represent the districts. I think, do you know, Dr. Getz, are there 7 that represent 7 school boards on the board?
I don't know that
Not
number.
sure either.
I think there might be a couple more. Well, no, I think you might be right.
And could you better explain what CISA is? I mean, it's
CISA is an acronym
tools.
for Cooperative Educational Service Agency. Basically, what they do, they provide auxiliary services for school districts. It could be professional development, it could be some of the services in professional education. Help me out,
Some
Paula.
grants.
Grants, yeah.
They get grants,
Okay.
and then we have services through them. They're kind of a conduit from DPI to the districts.
Yeah,
Okay.
we use them in a limited amount for special services and those kinds of things, but they do provide some training that we send people to throughout the year.
Okay, appreciate it, thanks.
So then the delegates all meet and they vote on who the board will be, and if you wanted to be on the board, you would meet once a month, and I believe the meetings are on Tuesday, but you don't have to be on the board. But Mr. Nielsen, you went to one of the meetings, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you want to explain how?
Yeah, there was a light meal beforehand, and then you listened to a few people who wanted to give their speeches about being on the board, and then you voted representing the district as to who wanted to be on the board. That was the only meeting that I attended. I wasn't seeking a board office, so that was really just one evening.
But then as a delegate, you can attend all the meetings you want
Right.
during the year. So we're looking for a volunteer to attend that meeting. Do we have any volunteers? I have a meeting that night, so I know I can't attend, otherwise.
I have a conflict also that night.
I could possibly attend.
You could.
I'll double check my calendar. It's at 5:30. I suppose I can make it. How long was the meeting?
It was less than 2 hours, hour and a half, maybe, not even that.
I guess I can
I
volunteer.
remember I had a function to get to, and Gabe ran it pretty quick. We got out of it pretty quick.
If I can't make it, then what, we're stuck, or?
I'm available that Tuesday if you
Oh. You're certain? I'm not certain, because I don't have access.
Yeah, it'd be tough for me to get out to Pewaukee by 5:30, but I'm available that night.
And I'm already out there, so I guess, can you be the fallback if I can't make it, or can't
Sure.
we do that?
I'll be the on deck.
Yeah, Dick. I'll let you know it. I can email you tomorrow.
That's fine.
Okay, then do we have a motion to appoint Mrs. Witkowski as the delegate for the 2015-16 CISA Board of Control Convention?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Thank you for volunteering, and thanks for the backup. Okay. And then item 8 is the consent agenda. Would any board member like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Witkowski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexandrovich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Thank you. School board announcements. Any announcements?
I attended the April Student of the Month breakfast at Pantheon Restaurant. It was great. The parents were wonderful and the students were wonderful. And so that was nice that I got to do that. And I want to be the first one to say that I saw Beauty and the Beast, because I know we're all talking about it. It was fantastic. It just gave me chills to see the talent that we have in this district. And it was so nice that we gave the kids that opportunity to perform in such a beautiful venue. So I thought it was just fantastic.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
I would just like to remind the board about the annual recognition dinner next Thursday, May 7th at Tuckaway Country Club at 5:30. Mr. Lewis, you're invited to attend that meeting. Everything's a meeting.
I would love to attend, and I would be there, but I have actually a trip to Nashville planned
Okay.
that
Oh,
week for
that
work.
sounds fun.
So, well, yes and no.
Well, that's okay. Next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And I attended also on Monday night the FAPSU presentation at the high school, where a family presented their story about heroin use. And there were about 100 people that attended that. So I know they hoped for more, but they've had fewer people attend some of those. So it was a family from the Pewaukee area. So there were a lot of questions from parents that were in attendance. So you always learn something at those, so it was good. Thank you.
I could add that Tim and Steve and I participated in the reality check day over at the high school last week, and saw the kids, go through these activities where they either manage their checkbooks well or they don't. And it was fun to see the reactions, and Steve had one of the best jobs in the place, handing out fate cards to kids where they would come across unexpected expenses or unexpected financial benefits. So it was a pretty neat activity, and it was expanded this year a little bit, according to the plan that we put together, to include kids from the business inroads classes. So it's a first step in expanding that.
Thank you.
I had an interesting observation at that event where there was a guy who was heading down the other side of the line to return the kids and the pets. Didn't fit into the budget. So I looked at him, oh, if it's only that easy.
So which kids participate then? Do they sign up, or only certain?
There were three classes, the accounting classes and personal financial literacy class, and I thought there was one other business class. That
So
this
it's
is
all-
part of it, but it only runs one semester. So those are semester-long classes, if I'm
Right.
correct? So,
Right, they're all semester classes.
so the
They're-
people that took it the first semester, that'd be one thing about maybe the expansion you were
Right.
talking about, is trying to figure out how we can accommodate
They're
more.
freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors? It could be any.
I think so. Maybe it's just
What was the
sophomore
Freshman,
and
sophomore,
senior, but I
junior,
think
seniors?
it was all.
Or is
Pardon
it-
me?
What year in school were they? freshmen, sophomore?
They were all grades.
All
Yeah,
grades, okay.
Yeah, all grades, because they're all elective classes. And it's skewed a little older, but there were some ninth graders there too.
Thank you. Okay. The next item is. Yeah, we're on liaison reports. Personnel and policy, Mr. Nielsen.
Thank you. Two policies coming forth tonight, 5211, student acceptable use of technology, and 4132, staff acceptable use of technology. There was not too many changes, as you can see, but
Are you on 4132?
I'm sorry, 5211, student acceptable, yeah, I was just going to tee them both up here, but we'll do the 5211 first. And I actually want to turn that right over to Judy, and I don't know if there was
Sure,
would you prefer
absolutely.
questions or presentation, or?
Right, Luann is here, Zelinsky, to answer any specific questions you have about some of the changes, obviously in the administrative rules, because not a great deal changed within the actual board policy. But just to give you a sense of the history on this, we invested quite a bit of time initially in the development of all of these policies about 5 years ago. So it was definitely time to review and update them a bit because we're dealing with technology and change. So Luann and I worked together, and she also worked with our team in the district. They used a Google Doc to talk back and forth about how this should be written and what should be in it. And we together drafted this. And again, Luann can answer any specific questions you have about any of the changes here.
Are there any questions?
So we still have a bring your own device policy, is that correct?
We don't have a separate bring your own device policy.
It's included in a policy?
It's a completely part of the student acceptable use in terms of how they use the device. We have an agreement form and a handbook about how the one-to-one device option works, but it's not in policy as a separate entity.
So they can use their own device then, essentially?
Yes.
And can they use their own email too then? Or, I mean, what, if they have their, personal email, can they use that too? And is that covered then under here?
So the way the policy and some of the administrative rules are worded is that if they are using their personal email on a district device, we have the ability, if it was abused or there was some reason to investigate, we have the ability to investigate. So it doesn't say that they can't. But if they have their own device and we allow them to bring their own device, it's really about classroom management and when it's appropriate to be on that device, when they can use that device, when teachers need to help put it away. They're doing an exam where they want them looking up things, that type of thing. So it's a classroom management piece at that point.
Is there anything in here that would address, just kind of feeding off of Linda's thought, that if they wanted to bring their own laptop versus the Chromebook? I know that was some discussion, I didn't think that was.
We didn't get into that specific. It does talk about that the students can bring their own device in. In doing so, they can only connect to the guest network. We're not going to connect them into the district network if they're bringing their own device. So by doing that, there are some limitations that they would have access to, printing and some other things that would require them to connect into our network if they wanted to have access to some of those resources and some of those tools.
And that guest services would include access to their own personal email?
It could, yes.
So if they, if they were, sending malicious emails from their own device, from their own email, this is covered, this?
We really, unless it's disturbing instruction, it's their personal device, it's their email address. We really can't monitor or manage or control that. What we can say is if they flooded, they were on our guest network and flooded our network in some way because there was some kind of malicious activity they were doing from their device, we would investigate. If it's not, causing any, impact on learning and what we're trying to do, then there's really no reason for us to investigate or to manage and monitor that.
Yeah, I think to answer Linda's question, I think the policy, the way I read it, is broad enough. For example, where it says any use of technology, they refer to technology resources, not only as school resources, but any technology resources. So if it's used to disrupt the educational process, endanger the property, health, safety of others, compromise privacy of others, illegal or prohibited conduct, or each individual user is ultimately responsible for their use of that technology. So it's broad enough where it would cover personal devices. Personal email could be a little sticky for privacy reasons, but if it's used to endanger, the district policy is broad enough where it would apply.
The administration has and will continue to confiscate phones, for example, for this reason. You know, a personal phone can be confiscated if it creates a disruption and there's something on there that's inappropriate.
I think, you know, too, within what we can and are allowed to do as a district, and if we need to, we turn it over to authorities who have broader, you know, abilities to be able to take a more in-depth investigation if needed.
And I guess, has it been a problem? Do we get a lot of, are there problems with them? We're into a year now with well, we've had challenges for a while, but do we get a lot of problems with students, or what's been our experience?
Not many. I mean, yes, we get the occasional students maybe mass sending a print job, or you get the occasional, you know, as they were starting to communicate online, where they would say things online they would say to the kids in, you know, in person. But those are just some part of the growing process. I don't think we've had any major. I guess we did have one scenario last year where we had a student flooding the network, you know, and there had to be, you know, that had to be taken to the next level. But beyond that, it's really been minimal.
The only question I had from this policy is, do we have a disciplinary plan if there was a violation of the policy that's in a separate document other than this document?
Each building has their plan, and we try to create that consistency. So in the case of the students who were on the network, that whether it was a middle school student, elementary, or high school, that those are dealt with appropriately, with age appropriateness, as well as at each level. So yeah, that's really up to the associate principals at each school to make those determinations and have that consistency.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve policy 5211 as recommended.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen,
I'll say.
second by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Nielsen.
Okay, the policy 4132, staff acceptable use of technology, was pretty buttoned up when this got put together, or at least didn't have a lot of changes. References to Web 2.0 was in there, and then cloud-based services, things like that. Again, but turn it over to Judy. Is there anything more she wanted to add?
Nothing that I'd like to add in particular, just, you know, again, we'll answer any questions you might have about it.
What about free apps? Can free apps be downloaded? Or how do you manage those?
For staff.
For staff, yes.
Free apps on teacher iPads they can download. We don't have really a process for that. Free apps for students, teachers can download free apps for students on the student devices. In terms of installing software, teachers do not have the rights to their computers to be able to install actually software programs on their computers. That has to be done by IT staff.
So they have the ability to use their own Apple ID.
They do not on a district device. We set up an Apple ID under their district email account.
Okay.
We also have management software, even though they have the ability to install things as needed as an instructor. The management software that we have for those devices, we could run a list of all the apps that are on there and manage those devices in any way they want, even though they're under their own Apple ID.
I was curious that the very first line says, of the administrative rules, the district has the right to revoke computer, networking privileges, etc. And then if we go to the third page, it mentions teacher laptops are property of the district, and all use of the laptops must adhere to board policies. And I read that and said, why is that here at all? If we've already said computers, because a laptop is a computer. So why do we specifically call out laptops? It's on the third page, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down.
You know, it may have been something that was put in there because teachers are issued individual laptops that they take home and have control over outside the school setting.
Oh, because it's outside the school setting?
Yeah, they
Oh.
do use them outside the school setting.
Okay, I guess that makes some sense.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I have one question. So, do we ever have any issue with parents using district devices, you know, their kids' stuff, or how they use emails, parents?
If a student has given their parent their email address and password, I suppose they could be. You know, our guidelines for the students with the Chromebooks and things are taking home as a device for learning for them. You know, we can't monitor what's happening at home, but the focus should be that the students are using them, not the parents or the siblings and others, so.
Yeah, I've not been made aware of any personnel that have abused the use of a personal computer provided by the district with their family or their children. I've not been made aware of any situation like that.
And again, also, have we dealt with any reports of misuse? I mean, what's been our experience then with any violations of the policy?
And nothing with the staff. I'm not certain about the students. Maybe Len has a better handle on that. Certainly our principals would have a better handle on that. Certainly things get damaged occasionally. I'm afraid there isn't anything terribly alarming going on. I think I would know about that. And so would Dr. Katz.
Yeah, we've had very few incidents. We've got a couple of the high school kids that are really skilled, making attempts to get into places. We also have a few kids at the high school that we don't employ them. We use them to try to do some damage on our, not to do some damage, that's the wrong word. We try to get them to get some accesses and try to find some weaknesses, and help us out, because we got some sharp kids. But overall, we've had I can think of one elementary one where a little girl was saying the computer didn't work and she was just trying to get out homework, so she was doing something on the computer to delete it and make it not work the way it should, and so, but we're very fortunate.
You do touch on gaming systems. Do we have games that we use? Or do kids play games?
We're on staff acceptable use of technology, so.
Well, it's mentioned that gaming systems
Okay.
under staff acceptable guidelines. It's under.
What page is it? The top right hand corner.
I can address it in general. We encourage the use of appropriate gaming not devices, but apparatus that they can use. The gaming industry really does have the market on educational practice zeroed in on. If you go to any technology conference in education, the gamers are there talking about all the kids that will go in there and they will spend hours and hours and hours trying to get to the next level. And part of that theory should be applied to education, where they use the technology to advance themselves, whether it's research or whatever. So gaming is, it's not from a frivolous toy goof around type thing. It's very structured, but it has its purpose in education without question.
And I think that's a good question. I think probably the most important section of this is the social networking sites section that was updated. So because of some of the most recent news stories that I'm sure everyone has heard, even as close as Kenosha, with teachers posting on their Facebook pages, Twitter accounts from their district computers. So I think that's probably the most important change here.
Anything else? And I'm looking for a motion to approve policy 4132. Do I hear that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Lewis, is there a second? Second by Mrs. Larson. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm going to move back to item 10, school board calendar. We have a regular board meeting Wednesday, May 13th, 2014, here at the Education and Community Center at 6 o'clock p.m. And a regular board meeting May 27th, 2014, here at the Education Community Center at 6 o'clock p.m. Item 12, reports and presentations. We have 12A, Human Resources Report, the 2015-16 Staffing Report. Dr. Miller?
I have provided you with some documents, but I brought something else I wanted to share with you this evening. This is something that Megan and I worked on to put together this year for our administrative team to use when they were out at the recruitment fair. We had all of our principals out at the recruitment fair this year, interviewing candidates, many candidates standing in line who wanted to work in Franklin. And we created this piece to share with them about our great school district. So I'd like all of you to have it. And, let you know that in HR, we are working to do more of this kind of thing, to promote our school district and to really entice the best of the best to come and work here. Teachers are moving around more, and we're competing with others for teachers, so I thought this was a nice piece to share with you.
Was that the first year all the principals did that?
It's actually the first year I got them all there, yes. Usually I get one or two. It's a Saturday. It's all day on a Saturday. So, but they all attended this time. So it was a great experience. And we've been out interviewing, and we've hired probably about 4 individuals that we found at the recruitment fair. So it's been a great experience for us this year. So I think that that's pretty exciting. So the reports are pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I really need to kind of tell you what they are. Instead, I'd like to just respond to any questions you might have about the reports. I mentioned in board docs that the goal was to have essentially a 0 increase in our FTE, given our budget situation and some concerns we have about that. We are not in a position where we're reducing anything or eliminating anything, which is extremely fortunate. So I worked very hard with our principals to make sure that we had everything that we currently have in terms of offerings for our students without increasing the budget and hiring more staff. So with that, the 3 reports are available to you, and I can answer any questions you might have about them.
I had a question about the projected enrollment. I'm assuming that the kindergarten numbers are way lower because we don't have everybody enrolled yet, and that's pretty typical. We don't typically know this time of year.
Unfortunately, we do our best. We had that kindergarten roundup in February, and we continue to promote. We had signs out. I haven't seen them recently, but we do still get a lot of people who it just, for some reason, kind of dawns on them the end of August that they need to bring their child here for school. So this is very, very normal.
Okay. Oh, I have another question, but it's on another handout, so go ahead, Alan, if you had something on this one.
On that one, though, we have a maximum of 30 students per classroom, and with all these kindergarten ones, from the data that we have here, it looks like we're substantially under that. But you expect to be
Oh, yes.
much closer?
Grow
This is
significantly.
very much the trend.
Okay, then at Pleasant View, 2nd grade, we have 60 enrollment, and we went with 3. Where we could have gone with 2, but then if one person shows up, it kicks us over, and we'd have to go to 3 anyway. Is that the reason why we did that?
Actually, our class size maximum that we like to adhere to, it's in board policy, is 27 for grade 2. Kindergarten through
it's by
grade 2
grade?
is 27.
Oh, okay.
It is different.
Okay.
3rd grade up is 30, but the primary grade's 27 is the number that we really, really don't ever want to exceed.
Okay, thank you.
It can happen if during the year, for some reason, a class grows, and then we put in some educational assistance, but there's a difference there.
Okay.
And then at Pleasant View, we have a teacher that we hired for 5th and 6th grade. How does that work?
The teachers in 5th and 6th grade do a middle school model, and they have students in both 5th and 6th grade if they're the science teacher for 5th and 6th grade. So that's how a teacher could have an assignment that included both grade levels.
All right, I'll I'll ask my next question.
Okay.
It was on the employee retention handout. And I had emailed you earlier in the week to ask about this, because it seems like we are approving a lot of new hires. But according to the data that you've presented, we're pretty much the same as what we were, where we were last year. So my question is, was last year an increase over previous year's levels, or is it been pretty flat? There seems to be a perception that a lot of people are leaving the district, and I don't know that that's necessarily true.
No, I would say it's pretty similar the last few years. It feels like it is actually, if I check the data, when school actually starts in August and I bring in that new group, it's usually about 20. It's always right around 20 people. There may have been a year or something in the past where you're a smaller group, but I think for the last several years, we've been right around that number with new hires. And then sometimes we have a number of babies that are born in the beginning of the school year, so you're bringing in even more people to fill those positions for 12 or 6 weeks or however long their parental leave would be, so.
I heard there are a lot of babies expected at the high school these days.
There's a lot of babies, and, you know, we've.
Not our students, among our staff.
No, we've hired, you know, a number of people, right out of school or just with a couple of years' experience. That's generally an employee we can afford to hire, you know, so kind of the higher we look for.
But we don't always look for cheap. We look for the best.
No,
Let's make that real clear.
Yeah. So, anyway, the point is, those individuals often are starting families, so we have babies born.
Thanks. And I just wanted to say, I really appreciated that you have the reasons in here also, because that allows us to kind of see if there are any trends or anything. So thank you for providing this.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice to see this report, I think.
I also saw the reasons, but I didn't see any count on any of the reasons.
It just corresponds to the number on top.
Oh, is that what that?
Yeah, so there's 1-9. So, yeah.
Thank you. Pointing out this remedial reading.
So we're adding the personalized learning specialist then as a new position, new job, or?
It's actually, what we had at the high school were 2 individuals who were the library technology specialists, and one of them will remain in that role, basically. They're essentially a technology specialist that helps teachers integrate technology into their teaching. And then the second person who had that similar role has resigned and left the district. And we decided, instead of having that person working with teachers to integrate that technology into their teaching, they were going to have a stronger focus on developing personalized learning. So I brought with me just a couple of things that help to describe that role. So what we've identified is we'd like this person to work on infusing personalized learning. Actually, through the K-12 curriculum, they'll focus primarily on the high school to start with, but over time, we would want this person to cover K-12, use data to track progress towards personalized learning goals and outcomes, assist in the implementation of professional development opportunities for staff, continuously research and implement best practices around personalized learning models, serve as a liaison with the Wisconsin eSchool Network to deliver online courses to Franklin Public School students through something called Brain Honey Course Management System. Vets courses to ensure they align with district curriculum outcomes, ensure proper training and development of online courses for instructors, manage online course budget, support online course instructors. So as you can see, it's pretty specialized with regard to that direction we're going with personalized learning. So we did not add a position, we just repurposed a position that someone vacated.
So then how would the it sounds like it's a focus, is like you said, on online courses, and how would those be managed? Would the board have any input in those, or, because, we approve curriculum, but we don't, would we know what online courses our students are taking, or
They
are
would
they
be
free
part
to?
of the course handbook. If they're going to be courses for credit, they would be part of the course handbook.
And we don't have any in our handbook right now?
We did. We had a class called Prowl, and it was an entirely online writing class for students at the high school.
You don't need any action on this, do you?
Nope, it's really so that you know that we're on track with our staffing plan for this year and doing really well with our hires, and we will be within budget.
Judy, one of the largest numbers is a different job. I assume we do exit interviews?
Leaving. I do speak with employees most definitely about why they're departing. I don't do any written documentation of that or have the employee do any written documentation of that. But I do have a conversation, and then I record it as such within the retention spreadsheet.
Okay, and if there is a reason that could be remedied, I assume we go after that and try to remedy whatever the problem is.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Because I guess the main reason most people leave jobs, if you read the surveys that they do,
Yeah.
is their supervisor. It's not always paid. And so seeing that a lot of people are leaving for different jobs, I was wondering if we had any issues that they needed to be.
I can't say anyone's left because of their supervisor.
Okay.
No one's reported that, at least to me. People often leave in many of the part-time positions for jobs with more hours.
Okay.
Because we offer only part-time employment. Food service employees, custodians look for maybe a different type of job. That might be a reason for leaving. Those are kind of the two primary reasons. Teachers often leave because they're relocating. There are a few different individual situations that arise that are of a personnel issue and matter that would be kept private.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Have you ever done a written exit interview after that?
I have not asked people to write things down. Any document like that is subject to open records, and there's a concern that I have that they would convey something in there about another employee or another person that may not be appropriate in terms of an open record.
Any other questions?
Are there educational assistants on the staffing thing?
No, I have not provided you with that staffing information. We don't anticipate increasing the number of educational assistants that we have, with the exception of things that occur regarding special education students and their needs. Throughout the year, there's sometimes additions that need to be made to the hours of our current employees, or maybe we even add a special ed assistant given the needs of a particular student who enrolls in our school district. Paulette and I talk about that occasionally. But our staff has done a really good job of trying to reassign people to cover those things. So there isn't a lot of new hiring going on.
How many do we have, educational assistants?
We have about 110, not educational assistants, excuse me. They would be secretaries, office assistants, licensed educational assistants, and educational assistants. And again, a lot of them are part-time.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, item 12B, Superintendent's Report, Board Retreat Update.
The responses I got back, received back regarding the board retreat, seems to be a strong consensus towards having it on a weeknight. What I think in the number of topics and the variety of topics that were expressed were pretty wide. So I'll look for some direction from the board. I would recommend one of those directions be sending one more email out to find out, put in maybe 6 or 8 dates, see if they work with everybody, because there were some people that said, they had a conflict here or there. And then what I would do is send out all the topics that were listed on the responses, see what people's wishes are. But I think that should be a discussion, possibly at the next board meeting, to say what topics does this board really want to get into that we can spend some quality time on, as opposed to just running through topics. So if that's okay, I'll do that.
All right, thank you. Any comments on that? Thank you, Dr. Pats. Okay, the treasurer's report is available in the board docs library. That's item 12C. And then item 13, I'm looking for a motion to enter into closed session to discuss employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of non-represented staff, including the district administrator and administrative staff, pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 Sub 1 Sub C, and to review negotiation matters regarding Franklin Educational Support Professional Assistant, FESPA, and Franklin Educational Association, FEA, pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 111.70. Do I hear that motion?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Alexandrovich. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Klein. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please, Mrs. Klein?
Yes. Mrs. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Alexandrovich.
Aye.
Mrs. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Nielsen.
Aye.
I say yes. Mrs. Wachowski.
Yes. Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Do we need a short recess?
This isn't going to.
Okay, item 14 is a board meeting debriefing. Are there any comments?
I just wanted to add, when we talked about the school board calendar, I will be absent on May 27th because that's the night of the senior awards banquet.
Next
2
year?
meetings, no,
Oh, this year?
2 meetings from now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
so, sure.
And
That's actually I don't have those dates
Oh.
for the remainder of,
they're in the library, if you look in board docs,
Okay.
under the library.
We'll send an update to you
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
And then this little card in front of you. Okay. Any other comments? Thank you. Future agenda items, kind of empty right now.
Well, several weeks ago, I had sent Megan an email regarding a young man at the high school who earned his Eagle Scout Award. And I know she forwarded that email on to Dr. Pats and Mrs. Evans. And I'm just wondering if we can't get that on the agenda to honor him. I know that he's already been honored at the Common Council meeting. But I'm just wondering why we can't. We've done it in the past, and his mother made a personal request that he be honored here at the school board meeting, so I'm wondering if we could put that on an agenda.
Did you make a determination?
What we had done in the past is when they did an Eagle Scout project for the school, we brought that forward. We did it for someone else. We hadn't had any of those yet. But if that's the board's consensus, if it's one of our students,
We had the one here that was for the dugout project, right?
He did a track
And that was,
project.
yeah, that was
it's a big deal.
appropriate.
Yeah, I think if
It's
it's
a lot
one
of
of our students, it can't hurt to honor them here. I mean, it's a
Okay.
big accomplishment.
Okay. We had another Eagle Scout that did the
The pit.
pit or conductor stand. He built that too, so it might, I don't know. Generally, we ask, or we wait until the parents make that request and then we do that, so. But we'll get it on the next one.
Okay, because the mom did make the request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Jim, do you know where we are on the renewal of the health insurance?
That will be on the, is it the 13th?
13th.
That'll be on the
13th, buddy.
13th agenda.
The next.
And what about community survey? Are you moving ahead with that? or-
What we were doing is waiting to find out who the fill-in for Amy is going to be. We had, Debbie and I have been working on that, and Bill Foster just waiting to find out who. So when Janet makes assignments and so on, we'll get on that real quick. So we'll probably, I'm guessing, might have something If not May 13th, it'll be on the second May agenda.
And then the budget comes back again in,
June?
So then, oh, you had, go ahead.
you said June is coming back. Budget's coming back in June.
Right.
And then we'll have the board retreat discussion and the next meeting.
And we will bring the item that was discussed in closed session, that we'll bring that to you, back to you on the 13th as well. We have to, because of the bookkeeping and all the processing that has to take place there, we need to get that, a decision made regarding those and all those employee groups.
Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn?
Before we
sure.
do that, I'd like to take a step back just to the debriefing.
Yes.
And just say this because I think it's beneficial to say this, but first of all, thank everyone on the board, because I was fortunate enough to meet individually with each one of you. And it was not only beneficial to me, but I think it helped you learn who I was. And I found two things out to be true after talking to everybody, where everyone said substantially a similar thing. And the first was that you want the board to get better, to continuously improve. And I think that was refreshing to hear. I think it's good to hear. And I think everyone realizes that however good we were over the past 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it is, we can always improve. And I think that's great. Secondly, that each one of you want to increase involvement of the board, either discussions in the meetings, externally in the community, and I think that was fantastic to hear as well. It's one thing that I heard when I talked to citizens during the election, and I think it's important for each one of us to have a voice whenever there's a topic, and have the ability to speak freely and feel like you have the ability to speak freely without prejudice or being disrespectful or disrespected. So I feel like it was great to hear from everybody, and I appreciated that, and I just hope that me telling you that every single person on this board had the same or similar point to make, I think that's fantastic, and I hope that you can take that away as well. But I'm looking forward to the next 3 years, and I hope it's a very productive next 3 years.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, then we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:01.